Welcome back, warrior friends, to part 3 of chapter 7. I apologize that I've had to break this chapter into 3 different parts. It is a long chapter, but I've had to jump through some unusual hoops to get the technology to work right. So before we finish our chapter, and there really is only just a couple pages left, I do want to give thanks again to HarperCollins, our publisher, and to Ivy Ruckman, our author, for allowing us to make these videos available to our students. Let's finish chapter 7, shall we? The officer nodded, and he listened. Naturally, none of us could think of Mrs. Smiley's house number when he asked. About then, Evelyn's dad pushed into our circle. "We've got an injured woman over here. We need a couple of men. She's trapped." "Right," the officer said, swinging around. "Don't worry," he called to my mom over his shoulder. We stood there and looked at each other, worrying more than ever. I could feel Mom shivering against me. The firemen had already begun searching houses and marking the foundations with a red X. But we knew for a fact they wouldn't get to Mrs. Smiley's house for a long time, and neither would that police officer. "Oh, hey, you forgot to tell him about her hearing aid," I said. "What if they call and she doesn't answer? They'll think that there's nobody there." Mom looked down at Ryan, who was starting to whimper, and I knew by her face she had made up her mind to do something. "I'm going back," she said. "Stacy, you'll have to take the baby." "Let us go back," Arthur interrupted. "The 3 of us. Without Ryan along, we can be there in 5 minutes. What can you do all by yourself, anyway?" Suddenly, we were all talking at once. "I would be crazy to send you kids." "I got the boys out, Mrs. Hatch. I wouldn't let anything happen to them." "Please, Mom. We have 2 flashlights. We can get there lots faster than the firemen who have to search every single house along the way." "Absolutely not," she kept saying. It was only after the same officer got on the bullhorn asking for volunteers and several people gathered around did she finally give in. "Will you promise to stick together? And you are only to see to Mrs. Smiley. You hear? No detours. And Stacy, you bring them right back to this corner." She would have kept on about how crazy it was for us to stay and not her, but by then Ryan was crying. "The baby needs you most," Stacy said, throwing in the clincher. "Don't worry about us, Mrs. Hatch. We'll be okay." It was all very confusing for a few minutes as we got Mom and Ryan on the bus headed for Kmart. Mom had to take a few messages from Stacy to Mrs. Darlington in case they ended up there and not at the armory, and a message from a few others who were staying behind to volunteer help. At the end, Mom hugged us again right there in front of everybody who was boarding the bus. "I'm really proud of you kids, you know that?" She sniffled, saying it, but she didn't cry. "Now, please, please be careful, and stay with the others." She gave me a little extra nuzzle on the neck. "Oh, Mom," I said, "you don't need to get all mushy." She cuffed me one as I turned, and I fled. There's the end of chapter 7. Join me again, and we will be reading the next chapter, which is called Later On. Thanks for joining me 3 times. Bye.